Welcome back friends. In this tutorial discuss about Spring and Spring Boot interview questions and so first question, what is the difference between application context and Beanfactory in Spring framework? So these are the container of our Spring work. Spring frameworks provides two IOC container for managing, configuring and manipulating beans. One is Beanfactory and another one is our application context. The application context interface extends Beanfactory to enhance the functionality of Beanfactory. In new Spring versions, Beanfactory is replaced with application context, but still Beanfactory exists for backward compatibility. So here is the difference between application context and Beanfactory. Here I have taken some parameters like annotation support. Beanfactory doesn't support application context support annotation. Bean post processor registration we have to do manually in Beanfactory and it is automatic in our application context. Implementation XML Beanfactory and for application context we have different implementation like class path, file system, web XML application context. So internationalization or I-18N support, Beanfactory doesn't support. Application context support I-18N. Enterprise services, Beanfactory doesn't support. Applications context supported. Application event publication, again Beanfactory doesn't support and application support. So here application context is the winner. Second question, what is the difference what Spring Boot application annotation? At Spring Boot application is a combination of three annotation: add configuration, add enable auto configuration and add component scan. Third question, what is rehashing in hashmap? Rehashing of hashmap is done when the number of elements in the map reaches the maximum threshold value. So if you are putting values in hashmap, so it reaches to its maximum threshold, then rehashing takes place. Usually the load factor value is 0.75 and the default initial capacity value is 16. Once the number of element reaches or crosses 0.75 times of the capacity, then rehashing of the map takes place. In this case, when the number of elements are 12, then rehashing occurs. Here we have multiplied 0.75 into 16 is equal to 12. So when rehashing occurs, a new hash function or even the same hash function could be used. The buckets at which the values are present could change basically. When rehashing occurs, the number of buckets are approximately doubled and hence the new index at which the value has to be put changes. While rehashing is linked list for each bucket get reversed in order. Our linked list will be reversed. This happens because hashmap doesn't append the new element at the tail. Instead, it appends the new element at the head. Hashing occurs, it reads each element and insert it in the new bucket at the head and then keeps on adding next element from the old map at head of the new map, resulting in reverse of linked list. What happens is it reverses all the linked list and appending element at the head. If there are multiple threads handling the same hash map, it could result in infinite loop. Fourth question, what is the difference between CRUD repository and JPA repository in Spring Data JPA? CRUD repository and JPA repository both are the interface of Spring Data repository library. Spring Data repository reduces the boilerplate code by providing some predefined finders to access the data layer for various persistent layers. JPA repository extends CRUD repository and paging and sorting repository. It inherits some finders from CRUD repository such as find one, gets and removes an entity. It also provides some extra method related to JPA such as delete records in batch, flushing data directly to the database, and methods related to pagination and sorting. We need to extend this repository in our application, and then we can access all the methods which are available in these repositories. We can also add new methods using named or native queries based on business requirements. There is the difference between JPA repository and CRUD repository. Hierarchy wise, JPA extends CRUD repository and paging and sorting repository. CRUD repository. CRUD repository is the base interface and it acts as a marker interface. Batch support. JPA also provides some extra methods related to JPA such as delete records in batch and flushing data directly to the database. CRUD repository support only CRUD functions like find one, saves, etc. Third key, pagination support. JPA repository also extends the paging and sorting repository. It provides all the methods for which are useful for implementing pagination. CRUD repository doesn't provide methods for implementing pagination and sort. Fourth, use case. JPA repositories tries your repository to the JPA persistence technology, so it should be avoided. In the case of CRUD repository, we should use CRUD repository or paging and sorting repository depending on whether you need sorting and paging or not. What is marker interface in Java? Marker interface, an empty interface in Java is known as a marker interface. It does not contain any methods or fields. By implementing these interfaces, a class will exhibit a special behavior with respect to the interface implemented. Java.lang.clonable, Java.io.serializable, and Java.rmi.remote are the examples of marker interface. So marker interfaces is a empty interface. It does not have any methods or variables. Sixth, what is the difference between controller and REST controller? The REST controller notation in Spring is nothing but a combination of at controller and at response body. It was added in Spring 4.0 to make the development of RESTful web services easier. 7. What are the new features of Java 7? So string in switch statement, first one. Second, binary integer literals, allowing underscores in numeric literals, catching multiple exceptions and rethrowing exception with improved type checking, automatic resource management in try statement, automatic resource management in try statement. Sixth, improved type interface for generic instance creation aka the diamond operator, simplified whereargs method declaration. Eighth, object class in java.lang.util package. Eighth, object class in java.util package with some utility methods. What are the new features of Java 8? Here are the list of new features. For each methods in iterable interface, default and static methods in interface, functional interfaces and lambda expression, Java Stream API for bulk data operation on collections, Java Time API, collection API improvements, concurrency API improvements, Java IO improvements, java.util.string joiner, optional classes, etc. Miscellaneous core API improvements. What is the functional interface in Java 8? The term the Java functional interface was introduced in Java 8. A functional interface in Java is an interface that contains only a single abstract or we can say unimplemented method. A functional interface can contain default and static methods which do have an implementation in addition to the single unimplemented method. Here is a functional interface example, public interface, my functional interface, and we have only one method, public void execute. The above counts as a functional interface in Java because only contains a single method and that method has no implementation. Normally a Java interface does not contain implementation of the methods it declares, but it can contain implementation in default methods or in a static methods. Below is another example of Java functional interface with implementation of some of the methods. So here is our public interface, my functional interface 2. We have one method, public void execute, that is abstract method. We does not have any body. We do not have any body. And second method is public default void print some string text. This default method has body, and below also we have print method. It is accepting two arguments, string text and print writer object. So it also contains body. So it is also a functional interface. Some built-in functional interfaces in Java like predicate. The Java predicate interface java.util.function predicate represents a simple function that takes a single value as parameter and returns true or false. Here is how the predicate functional interface definition looks. Public interface predicate, and it has one method. Return type of method is boolean and function name is test and accept only one parameter. Unary operator. The Java unary operator interface is a functional interface that represents an operation which takes a single parameter and return a parameter of the same type. Here is an example of Java unary operator implementation. Unary operator person, unary operator is equal to person, and here is our expression, person dot name is equal to new name and return the person. The unary operator interface can be used to represent an operation that takes a specific object as a parameter, modifies that object and return it again, possibly as part of a functional stream processing chain. Binary operator. The Java binary operator interface is a functional interface that represents an operation which takes two parameters and returns a single value. Both parameters and the return type must be of the same type. Java binary operator interface is useful when implementing functions that sum, abstract, divide, multiply, etc. Two elements of the same type and return a third element of the same type. Here is an example implementation of binary operator interface. Binary operator my value, binary operator value 1, value 2, and here we are performing value 1 dot add and returning value 1. Supplier. Supplier. The Java supplier interface is a functional interface that represents a function that supplies a value of some sorts. The supplier interface can also be thought of a factory interface. Here is an example implementation of the Java supplier interface. Supplier integer, supplier and integer math.random 1000t. This Java supplier implementation returns a new integer instance with random value between 0 to 1000. Consumer. The Java consumer interface is a functional interface that represents a function that consumes a value without returning any value. A Java consumer implementation could be printing out of a value or writing it to a file or over the network, etc. Here is an example implementation of the Java consumer interface. Consumer integer, consumer value, system.out.println value. This Java consumer implementation prints the value passed as a parameter to it out system.out. Question 10. What is the difference between array list and vector? Array list is not synchronized, vector is synchronized. Array list is not a legacy class, vector is a legacy class. In the case of array list, increases its size by 50% of the array size. Vector increases its size by doubling the array size. Array list is not thread safe, it's not synchronized. Vector is a thread safe and its every method is synchronous. What is the difference between array list and linked list? Array list uses a dynamic array. In the case of linked list, it uses doubly linked list. Array list is not efficient for manipulation because too much iteration is required. In case of linked list, it is efficient for manipulation. Array list is better to store and fetch data. Linked list is better for manipulate data. Array list provides random access. Linked list does not provide random access. Array list takes less memory overhead as it stores only object. Linked list takes more memory overhead as it stores the object as well as the address of that object. What is the difference between iterator and enumeration? Iterator and enumeration. Iterator is a universal cursor as it applicable for all the collection classes. Enumeration is not a universal cursor. It applies only to legacy classes. Iterator has the remove method. Enumeration does not have the remove method. Iterator can do modification. Example, using remove method, it removes the element from the collection during traversal. Enumeration interface act as a read-only interface. One cannot do any modification to the collection while traversing the element of the collection. Iterator is not a legacy interface. Iterator can be used for the traversal of hashmap, linked list, array list, hash set, tree map, and tree set. Enumeration is a legacy interface which is used for traversing vector and hash table. What is the difference between list and set? The list and set both extend the collection interface. However, there are some difference between the both which are listed below. The list can contain duplicate element where set includes unique items. The list is an ordered collection which maintains the insertion order, where set is an unordered collection which does not preserve the insertion order. The list is an ordered collection which maintains the insertion order, where set is an unordered collection which does not preserve the insertion order. The list interface contains a single legacy class which is vector class, where set interface does not have any legacy class. The list interface can allow n number of null values, whereas set interface only allows a single null value. What is the difference between hash set and tree set? The hash set and tree set both classes implement set interface. The difference between both of them are below. Hash set maintains no order, whereas tree set maintains ascending order. Hash set implemented by hash table, whereas tree set implemented by tree structure. Hash set performs faster than tree set. Hash set is backed by hashmap, whereas tree set is backed by tree map. What is the difference between set and map? The difference between set and map are given below. Set contains value only, whereas map contains key and value both. Set contains unique values, whereas map contains unique keys with duplicate values. Set holds a single number of null value, whereas map can include a single null key with n number of null values. 17. What is the difference between hash set and hashmap? The difference between the hash set and hashmap are below. Hash set contains only values, whereas hashmap contains the entry key, comma, value. Hash set can be iterated, but hashmap need to be converted into set to be iterated. Hash set implementation set interface, whereas hashmap implements the map interface. Hash set cannot have any duplicate value, whereas map can contain duplicate values with unique keys. Hashset contains the only single number of null value, whereas hashmap can hold a single null key with n number of null values.